Hello all, welcome to the lecture. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss some of the important news that were there in your area of international relations. We are going to cover up some news and we are going to see some minute details that are associated with this particular. So let us start. We are going to firstly discuss the tensions and violence that escalated between Israel and Palestinian militants and what was the India's stand on it. So India and US and many of the countries, they wanted some calm. They wanted some restraint amid the escalating tensions and violence between Israel and Palestine. So dozens of people, they lost their life in clashes, and there were airstrikes due to the violence that broke out. And there was a 30-year-old Indian woman in Israel who was killed in the rocket attack by Palestinian militants from Gaza. So what are the key points that we have to remember, that what is the stand of India on it? So basically, at the United Nations Security Council meeting, India expressed that these kind of violence and clashes in Jerusalem are not something to be appreciated. And for the both sides, India wanted to avoid changing the status quo on the ground because it wanted to maintain the things that they were there and the stability should maintain. And India's permanent representatives at the UN, they stressed the need that immediately there should be some direct peace talks that should happen rather than going for loss of lives. What should be the clear motto? That we have to go some dialogues and negotiations. And US president, he also called for de-escalation of the deadly violence that claimed dozens of lives. But there was another thing that US added, was that Israel has a right to defend itself. If it is attacked by thousands of rockets, then Israel will take a stand. Then we had a response that was coming from the Arab world, the countries like Qatar, Turkey and Iran. They completely gave support to your Palestine issue, Palestine cause, and they are backing the Hamas. So UAE and Saudi Arabia, they are the complete, we can say, de facto allies of Israel on the other hand. So what is the conflict? So Israel and Palestine, the conflict is that it is linked to the age-old tussle that is happening between the two countries over the land, over the identity, and all it starts with Jerusalem. So in the first Arab-Israel war that happened in 1948, this was the time period, the Israelis captured the western half of the city, and the Jordan, they took the eastern part, which Israel later captured and annexed. So since then, we could find Israel had expanded settlements in East Jerusalem, and the Palestinians, they want to make East Jerusalem the capital of their yet to be formed state. So Israel sees that the whole of the city is something as their eternal capital, whereas when we talk about Palestinians, they denies any compromise, because unless and until the East Jerusalem, it get recognized as the capital of the future Palestinian state. There's a long issue that has been pertaining, and it also, from India's point of view, if we look at the map is significant, that what is the conflicts, and India stand on this particular issue. So the Palestinians, they are facing the threat that they will be evicted from Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in East Jerusalem. So we can see the location, and the land will be given to the Jewish settlers. And when there was a attack on the mosque, the Israel armed forces, they attacked the mosque. That was something, that this is an attack on the holy shrine. So a lot of things have started coming out all the worldwide area. And also in 2021, the Central Court in East Jerusalem, they upheld a decision to evict 4 Palestinian families from their homes in Sheikh Jarrah in favor of the Jewish settlers. And this particular issue, it currently remains unresolved, and it is a issue, we can say, yes, it is inflammable in nature. But what are the factors that trigger this conflict? So we have to see that what factors led to this kind of war. So firstly, it is considered that the Hamas, they are in rule in Palestine, Another factor is the political instability is there in both the states. These are considered to be the major factors behind this conflict. So there is a lot of stagnation in the leadership structure we can find, and too many large groups are there, right, on both the sides who are out of control, and they come out for violence, and this violence needs to be stopped. So any issue, if it arises, any kind of war arises, definitely going to hamper the peace and security of the other regions of the world also. Another very important issue is that the first India-Kyrgyzstan Strategic Dialogue happened between the National Security Council Secretariat in New Delhi, and the Indian side was led by our National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, and the Kyrgyzstan side was led by Secretary of Security Council Lieutenant General Marat Emenkor. So the two sides, they started discussing on threats, what are the challenges that both countries are facing. There were dialogues on discussions on regional security environment, and a very special reference was made for Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is becoming an area of concern with the Taliban rule. So the two sides, a lot of similar views were there on matters. They agreed on certain steps also, that they are going to cooperate between a lot of things like your counter-terrorism measures, combating radicalization, narcotics control, defense cooperation. All these factors were considered. Another very important news that was there was that the state of Tamil Nadu and Denmark, this is important, they are planning to create an energy island, and this energy island will be created in your Gulf of Mannar. Where is Gulf of Mannar? If you look at the location, so location is something very important. It lies between the west coast of Sri Lanka and the southeastern tip of India. So we need to know that Tamil Nadu is trying to expand its footprint in the green energy sector. And to achieve this target, Denmark had decided to invest around around $5 to $10 billion in the renewable energy sector in Tamil Nadu. So and this is going to include your investment in the energy island in the Gulf of Mannar. So we can see the location. And it is believed that once this investment happens, this particular island that we are talking about, energy island, it will be able to produce around 4 to 10 gigawatt of energy. So both Tamil Nadu and Denmark, they made their plan for this particular investments after Tamil Nadu Generation and Distribution Corporation, it announced the launch of a solar power project. And a lot of things are moving forward in the renewable sector. So Denmark's investment, if we look in Tamil Nadu, it is we can see that from January 2003 to your January 2021, already a lot of investment have come from Denmark in India. And some of the Danish companies, they are operating in Tamil Nadu, like your Vestas, Cubic, and we have a lot of investment from Denmark, and this is, we can see another step ahead that is coming in the form of investments. And this is good for the India-Danish cooperation also. Around, it is estimated that 200 Danish companies are operating in other parts of India also, in several other states. And Denmark has invested in the last decade more than $1 billion in India. So Indian companies which are operating in Denmark are Tata Consultancy Services, ITC Infotech, Infosys Technology. So these are the companies that are operating in Denmark. From that point of view, we need to know how the relation is moving on and where the green island is. We have looked for the map. Another important news that was there was that our External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, he unveiled the Bhoodan Grove plaque in the Jerusalem forest. The aim was to bring out the lesser known aspects of the Indo-Israel relationship. So the thing is that before India and Israel, they came out with the establishment of a full-fledged diplomatic ties between the two countries. There was a lot of things were there, and with what is the objective was that keeping Mahatma Gandhi's concept of the village as the basic unit of development. So Indian leaders who were exploring the ways to implement the socialist ideas of this Sarvodaya movement, basically Bhoodan and Gramdan movement. So our leaders, they went to Israel to study the social structure of different forms of Israel's communal and cooperative institutions that are operating over there. So who is the leader of the Sarvodaya movement? Jai Prakash Narayan. He visited Israel in 1958, and this was considered a very good relationship that developed between India and Israel at that time. So that is, we can relate it at what is this Bhoodan Grove plague in the Jerusalem forest. So after Narayan's visit, it was followed by that of a 27 member of the Sarvodaya team. They went to Israel from February to August 1960, and they spent a time in northern Israel. So when they were coming back to India, they planted the Bhoodan Grove in the Jerusalem forest in 1960, May 22. So this was what Mr. Jaishankar trying to describe the visit by Narayan and Bhoodan worker as when he referred that an aspect of a shared history which hasn't received the attention it deserved. So from that point of view, what is Bhoodan Gramdan movement, that is important here. And Mr. Jaishankar also called the unveiling of the plague very timely, as last year was very important. It was the 125th birth anniversary of Acharya Vinod Bhave. Next, another important news is the first Quad Summit. We are more of talking about Quad, a new organization, a new platform emerging where India is trying to control, right? So we have, what is this Quad? So recently, first ever in-person meeting of the Quad was held. And what is this Quad? This is the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, an informal association of India, USA, Australia, and Japan. This is the group met for the first time in 2007 on the sidelines of ASEAN, and we trace back the origin of Quad to the evolution of the exercise Malabar and the 2004 tsunami, when India was conducting relief and rescue operations for itself and neighboring countries. Later on, it was joined by USA, Japan, and Australia, and today we have this Quad platform. So we already know the tensions that are prevailing in the Indo-Pacific, the growing hegemony of China. That is the basic purpose of this formation of Quad. And Japan is very much concerned of the growing hegemony of the Chinese in your South China Sea. So a platform where India can negotiate with great world powers. So that, we can counterbalance the growing hegemony of China. So recently, the first ever in-person meeting of the Quad was held. So what are the things that were announced in the summit? The summit announced some of the key initiatives that were going to be taken, and launch of your Quad infrastructure coordination. So this is what it was announced, and a lot of things they were announced, like within your energy sector, like establishing a clean hydrogen partnership. So to strengthen and reduce the cost across all elements of the clean hydrogen value chain. Also, it was decided that the countries are going to enhance climate adaptation, resilience, preparedness in the Indo-Pacific. So now Quad is not just looking from the strategic point of view, it is concerning the other areas also. Recently, the 50th anniversary of the Indo-Soviet Treaty on Peace, Friendship and Cooperation was signed. That was signed in 1971 was celebrated. So what was this treaty? So if I talk about India-Russia relations, we know that India and Russia have a defense relationship, right? But there is an economic relationship also. There is some energy security relationship also. If I talk about the energy sector, Russia has built nuclear reactors in India and adopted a strategic vision in nuclear energy also. So it has offered oil, gas, and investment opportunities in the fuel sector of Russia. Space technology, international standing. Russia supported that India's bid for permanent seat in UNSC also, and it has been favoring India's entry to the NSG, nuclear supplier group. And not just this, at various platforms the two countries come together, your BRICS, SCO, G20. Cultural relations, if I talk about, there are programs like Namaste Russia and sharing educational brilliance of both the countries, like your through your institutions like Jawaharlal Nehru Cultural Center. So recently we celebrated the 50th anniversary of Indo-Soviet Treaty on Peace, Friendship and Cooperation that was signed in 1971. Also, we need to know about the Eastern Economic Forum. What is this Eastern Economic Forum? So, India, when it was speaking at the 6th Eastern Economic Forum, it highlighted the time-tested friendship that has always prevailed between India and Russia. You need to know what is this Eastern Economic Forum. So, this particular forum was established way back in 2015, and this is an international forum which is held each year in Vladivostok, Russia. So, what is the aim? This Eastern Economic Forum, the aim is to work towards the economic development of Russia's Far East and expand international cooperation in your Asia Pacific region by encouraging the foreign investment. And in 2019, India came out with its launched its Act Far East policy at this particular forum. And India provided around $1 billion line of credit for the development of this resource-rich region. Another important news is that Iran recently decided to develop Farzad B gas field domestically, and it cut off India's oil and natural gas corporation hopes of landing this lucrative contract. So what is this Farzad B gas field? We need to know about it. So Farzad B is an offshore natural gas field that is located in the Persian Gulf, Iran. India has been trying to develop smoother relationships with Iran, and we know how much strategically important Iran is for us. But keeping in mind over the time period, there are a lot of concerns that Iran is siding away with Pakistan, and it is emerging as a concern for India. So this Farzad B, it lies in the Farsi bloc on the border between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So what is the significance of this gas field? This gas field holds around 23 trillion cubic feet of in-place gas reserve, about which 60% of it is considered recoverable. And the gas field was actually discovered in 2008 by OVL, the Overseas Investment Arm of India's state-owned oil and natural gas corporation. That is, we are talking about ONGC. And recently, Iran decided to develop this particular gas field domestically. And therefore, we can see that we were trying to make an investment, but this investment is no more going on. So, thank you. With this, we end the lecture.